The sun was already starting to sink in the sky as Lily parked her old blue car at the edge of the graveyard. She turned off the engine but kept sitting there, her hands still gripping the steering wheel tightly. 5 years. It had been 5 whole years since her mother passed away, and this was only her second time visiting the grave. The first had been at the funeral, when everything still felt like a bad dream. Lily wasn't proud of staying away so long. She had 1,000 excuses ready. She lived 3 hours away, she was busy with her job at the bookstore, the holidays were always hectic. But deep down, she knew the real reason. Coming here meant facing all the things she never said when her mother was alive. All the arguments they never resolved. All the questions that would now never have answers. Just do it, she whispered to herself, reaching for the small bunch of wildflowers on the passenger seat. Purple and yellow ones, Mom's favorites. Lily had spotted them growing along the roadside and pulled over to pick them, remembering how her mother would always point them out on their drives through the countryside. The car door creaked as she finally stepped out. The cemetery was quiet except for the distant sound of birds and the soft rustling of leaves. Lily pulled her light jacket closer as a cool breeze swept through the trees. Fall was coming early this year. She knew exactly where to go, even after all this time. 3rd row back, under the big oak tree. Her feet moved automatically while her mind raced with memories. Mom teaching her to ride a bike. Mom burning the birthday cake when Lily turned 10, then both of them laughing as they scraped off the blackened frosting. Mom standing with arms crossed at the door when 16-year-old Lily came home 2 hours past curfew. Mom's disappointed face when Lily announced she was dropping out of college. Their last big fight, 3 weeks before the heart attack that took her away forever. Lily stopped in front of the simple gray headstone. It was well maintained but plain, just like Mom would have wanted. No fancy words or decorations, just her name, dates, and beloved mother underneath. Someone had been keeping it clean, probably Aunt Beth, who still lived nearby. "Hi, Mom," Lily said quietly, feeling awkward. What do you say to someone who can't answer back? She bent down to place the wildflowers at the base of the stone. As she did, she noticed the dried remains of other flowers. So Aunt Beth had been here recently. Sorry it took me so long to visit. Lily settled down onto the grass, crossing her legs like she used to do as a kid during their backyard picnics. I'm not really good at this, you know? Talking to a stone, I guess. The breeze picked up again, making the tree branches sway above her. For a moment, Lily imagined it was her mother sighing in response. I'm still at the bookstore. I got promoted to manager last year. It's not what you wanted for me, I know. All that potential you used to say. Lily plucked at the grass beside her. But I like it there. The customers, the books, the quiet. It suits me. A squirrel darted across a nearby grave, pausing to look at her before scampering up a tree. Lily watched it go, gathering her thoughts. I broke up with Ray. You were right about him. He was just like Dad. Charming when he wanted to be, but never reliable when it mattered. She gave a short, humorless laugh. I wish I'd listened to you about that at least. The memories started coming faster now. All the times her mother had tried to guide her, protect her, and how Lily had pushed back, thinking she knew better. She'd been so stubborn, so convinced her mother just wanted to control her life. Now, at 26, Lily was old enough to recognize the concern behind her mother's strict rules. I moved out of the city, she continued. Got a little apartment, in Riverside. It's nothing fancy, but it has a small balcony where I'm growing herbs. Remember how you always had that herb garden by the kitchen window? I finally understand why you found it so relaxing. Lily reached out to trace the letters of her mother's name on the headstone. The stone felt cool under her fingertips. I found your recipe box when I was helping Aunt Beth clean out the attic last Christmas. I've been trying to make your apple pie. 7 attempts so far, and it's still not right. There must be some secret step you never wrote down. The lump in her throat made it hard to keep talking. This was why she'd avoided coming here. It hurt too much to remember. The thing is, Mom, Lily's voice cracked. The thing is, I never understood you when you were here. We were so different. You were always so careful, so worried about everything, always planning, always saving for rainy days. And I was just living in the moment, taking chances, making messes I expected you to help clean up. A tear slid down her cheek and she wiped it away quickly. You drove me crazy with all your rules and expectations, but now I get it. You were trying to prepare me for how hard life can be. You knew because you lived it after Dad left. Raising me alone, working 2 jobs, never complaining. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the graveyard. Lily hadn't meant to stay this long, but now that she'd started talking, she couldn't seem to stop. I found the letters, she said softly. The ones from the college offering to let me come back with a partial scholarship. You kept them, even after I told you I wasn't interested. You never mentioned them again, but you kept them, like you were waiting for me to change my mind. Lily pulled her knees up to her chest, hugging them tight. And the worst part is I think I want to go back now. I've been taking some online classes, literature and creative writing. Turns out I'm not half bad at it. One of my teachers thinks I could publish something someday. The thought of how proud her mother would have been made fresh tears well up. You would have loved to hear that, wouldn't you? Your daughter, a writer, maybe even a teacher someday. All those books you read to me when I was little, they stuck with me after all. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, smooth stone, one she'd picked up from the beach during their last family vacation, when Lily was 12. Before the teenage rebellion, before the fights. Back when things were simpler. She'd kept it all these years, a reminder of happier times. Remember this? From that trip to the coast? You said it was shaped like a heart, and that I should keep it to remember that day. She placed the small stone at the base of the headstone. I'm leaving it here with you now. A piece of that memory we shared. The wind rustled through the oak tree again, sending a shower of early fallen leaves spiraling down around her. One landed on her shoulder, and Lily gently brushed it away. There's so much I wish I could tell you, Mom. So many questions I still have. Did you ever think about trying to find Dad? Were you ever truly happy, or were you just putting on a brave face for me? Did you know, at the end, how much I loved you despite all our fights? The questions hung in the air, unanswered. Lily knew they always would be. I should have called more, should have visited at Christmas that last year instead of going skiing with friends. Should have. She shook her head. Well, there's a lot of should-haves now. In the distance, Lily heard the caretaker's cart making its rounds. The cemetery would be closing soon. She'd lost track of time sitting here talking to a headstone as the afternoon slipped away. I brought something else, she said, reaching into her bag. She pulled out a worn, dog-eared copy of poetry. Your favorite book, the one you were always quoting from. I found it when I was packing to move. I've been reading it, trying to understand why these poems meant so much to you. Lily opened the book to a page she'd marked with a slip of paper. This one about the changing seasons. You used to read it every fall. I never paid attention then, but I read it now, and I can hear your voice saying the words. She ran her fingers over the page, noticing all the notes her mother had written in the margins over the years. Little insights, questions, connections to her own life. It was like having a conversation with her mother through these faded pencil marks. I'm learning more about you now than I ever did when you were alive, Lily said softly. Isn't that strange, and sad too? The cemetery was growing darker as evening approached. Lily knew she should leave soon, make the long drive back to her apartment. But something kept her rooted to this spot, this moment of connection that felt more real than she'd expected. I think I'll come back next month, she decided aloud. Maybe bring a picnic like we used to do. Sit here and tell you about my week. Would that be okay? Of course there was no answer, just the gentle sway of tree branches and the distant call of birds settling in for the night. Yet somehow, Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't expected to find here. As she finally stood to leave, brushing grass from her jeans, she took one last look at the simple headstone. I miss you, Mom. I think I always will. But I'm trying to live in a way that would make you proud now. Better late than never, right? With that, Lily turned and walked back toward her car, already thinking about what she would tell her mother on her next visit. For the first time in 5 years, the weight of regret felt a little lighter on her shoulders. She couldn't change the past, but she could honor her mother's memory by living well now. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Lily was about to stand up and leave when a sudden gust of wind swept through the cemetery. It was stronger than before, almost purposeful in the way it swirled around her. The pages of her mother's poetry book, which she had left open on the grass beside her, fluttered wildly. When the wind died down as quickly as it had come, the book had settled open to a different page. "That's weird," Lily murmured, picking up the book. It had opened to a poem titled Messages from Beyond. She'd never noticed it before during her recent readings. A chill ran down her spine as she read the first few lines about loved ones finding ways to reach across the divide of death. She was so absorbed in the poem that she didn't notice someone approaching until a shadow fell across the page. Looking up with a start, Lily found herself face to face with an elderly woman she'd never seen before. The woman stood tall despite her age, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Something about her seemed oddly familiar, the way she tilted her head slightly, or perhaps the gentle curve of her smile. She wore a simple blue dress with a light cardigan, clutching a small bouquet of the same wildflowers Lily had brought. "I'm sorry to disturb you," the woman said in a warm voice. "I couldn't help noticing you at Grace's grave." Lily blinked in surprise. Grace, her mother's name. Few people called her that anymore. Most had known her as Mrs. Chen in her later years. "Did you know my mother?" Lily asked, closing the poetry book and getting to her feet. The woman's smile deepened, creating a web of fine lines around her eyes. "Oh yes, very well, I'm Vivian. Grace and I grew up together right here in this town." Lily frowned slightly. "That's strange. Mom never mentioned a Vivian." "Well, we lost touch for many years," Vivian explained, stepping closer to place her flowers beside Lily's. "We reconnected only shortly before she passed. Life has a way of separating even the closest of friends, doesn't it?" There was something about Vivian that put Lily at ease, despite the unexpected encounter. Perhaps it was the familiar way she spoke about Grace or the genuine sadness in her eyes when she mentioned her passing. "Would you mind if I joined you for a moment?" Vivian asked. "It's been a while since I've visited, and it would be nice to pay my respects alongside Grace's daughter." Lily nodded, feeling a sudden curiosity about this woman, who claimed to know a side of her mother she had never seen. They both sat down on the grass, the headstone between them and the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the cemetery. "You have her eyes, you know," Vivian said after a moment of comfortable silence. "And that same thoughtful expression when you're trying to figure something out." Lily couldn't help but smile. "People used to tell me I looked like her. I never saw it myself." "Oh, it's there," Vivian assured her. "Though you've got your father's chin. Stubborn, just like him." This caught Lily by surprise. "You knew my father too?" Vivian nodded, her eyes distant with memories. "I knew them both when they were young and in love, before things got complicated." Lily shifted uncomfortably. Her father had left when she was just 7, and her mother rarely spoke about him afterward. All Lily knew was that he'd moved to another state, started a new family, and sent birthday cards with $20 bills until she turned 18. After that, nothing. What was she like? Lily found herself asking. When she was young, I mean. Before she became a mother. Vivian's face lit up. Oh, Grace was something else back then. Not at all the serious person you might remember. Serious is an understatement, Lily said with a short laugh. Mom was the queen of rules and caution. That would surprise anyone who knew her at 20, Vivian said, shaking her head. Your mother was the adventurous one in our group, always the first, to try something new or take a risk. Lily stared at Vivian in disbelief. We must be talking about different people. My mother wouldn't even ride roller coasters. That came later, Vivian said softly. After certain experiences changed her outlook. The way Vivian hesitated made Lily lean forward. What experiences? Vivian seemed to be considering how much to share. She brushed a fallen leaf from the headstone before answering. Did your mother ever tell you about her younger brother? Your Uncle Thomas? Lily shook her head. I didn't know she had a brother. Vivian sighed deeply. I thought as much. Grace found it too painful to talk about, even years later. Thomas was 3 years younger than your mother. Bright, charming, full of energy, they were incredibly close. A family secret? Lily had never heard even a whisper about an uncle from her mother or Aunt Beth. What happened to him? Heart failure, Vivian said simply. He was only 16. It happened suddenly during a basketball game at school. Grace was there watching. She saw the whole thing. Lily felt a cold shock run through her. 16? That's horrible. It devastated your grandparents, Vivian continued. And it changed Grace forever. That's when the carefree girl I knew disappeared, replaced by someone who saw danger lurking around every corner. Pieces began falling into place in Lily's mind. Her mother's constant worrying, her insistence on regular doctor checkups, her panic when Lily was even slightly ill. All those strict rules that had seemed so unreasonable to a teenager. There's more, Vivian said, her voice dropping lower. It wasn't just a random tragedy. The doctors discovered Thomas had a congenital heart condition, one that runs in families. Lily felt her own heart skip a beat. Is that why she was always so protective of me? Vivian nodded slowly. Grace lived in fear that you might have inherited the same condition. She made herself sick with worry sometimes. But she never wanted to tell you outright. She was afraid. You'd live your whole life in fear, always waiting for something bad to happen. So instead she just smothered me with rules, Lily asked, a hint of the old resentment creeping into her voice. She thought she was protecting you the only way she knew how, Vivian said, by keeping you away from anything that might put stress on your heart. Sports, excitement, even certain foods. She probably took it too far sometimes. Lily remembered all the activities she wasn't allowed to join. The soccer team in middle school, the hiking club in high school. Her mother had always had excuses ready. Too expensive, too time-consuming, too dangerous. Did I inherit it? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. This heart condition? I don't know, Vivian admitted. Grace never told me if you were tested as a child. I think she meant to tell you everything when you were older, but then she ran out of time, Lily finished, feeling a new wave of grief wash over her. Her mother had carried this burden alone, trying to protect her in her own imperfect way. They sat in silence for a few moments, each lost in thought. The cemetery was growing darker as the sun began to set in earnest now. Soon the caretaker would come around to lock the gates. I have something for you, Vivian said suddenly, reaching into her cardigan pocket. She pulled out a weathered envelope, yellowed with age. Grace gave this to me years ago. She made me promise that I would give it to you when you were ready to hear the truth. How would you know when I was ready? Lily asked, staring at the envelope in Vivian's outstretched hand. Her mother's handwriting was visible on the front, simply Lily in her precise penmanship. Vivian's smile was mysterious. Grace said I would know, that when the time was right we would find each other here. She gestured around the cemetery. And here we are. Lily's hand trembled slightly as she took the envelope. Why didn't you try to find me before now? I've been waiting, Vivian said simply. Grace was very specific about the timing. She said you would need to come to terms with some things first, that you would need to visit her grave willingly, not because someone pushed you to do it. A strange feeling crept over Lily. How could she have known I would come today after 5 years? Vivian stood up, brushing grass from her dress. Your mother had remarkable intuition. She understood people, especially you. Lily remained seated, the envelope heavy in her hands. Will you be around? If I have questions after reading this? You'll find me when you need to, Vivian said cryptically. Grace's letter will tell you everything you need to know for now. As Vivian turned to leave, something occurred to Lily. Wait, how did you know I would be here today? Were you just visiting by coincidence? Vivian looked back over her shoulder, the setting sun casting her face in golden light. There are no coincidences, Lily. Only patterns we don't recognize yet. With that, she walked away between the headstones, her figure growing smaller until she disappeared behind a row of tall monuments. Lily sat alone again, the envelope in one hand and her mother's poetry book in the other. The caretaker's cart was making its final round. Lily knew she needed to leave, but the envelope seemed to burn in her hand, demanding to be opened right there at her mother's grave. "What were you hiding from me, Mom?" she whispered to the silent stone. As if in answer, another gentle breeze rustled the nearby flowers. This time it felt almost like a caress against her cheek. Lily carefully tucked both the letter and the poetry book into her bag. She would read it when she got home, when she could fully process whatever secrets her mother had kept. As she stood to leave, she placed her hand on top of the headstone one last time. "I'll be back soon," she promised. "And next time, I think I'll have a lot more to talk about." The sun had almost disappeared beyond the horizon as Lily walked back to her car, her mind racing with questions. Who exactly was Vivian? What was in the letter? And how had her mother known somehow that this day would come? The drive home felt longer than usual. Lily kept glancing at her bag on the passenger seat, where the mysterious envelope from Vivian sat tucked inside her mother's poetry book. The weight of unread words seemed to fill the car. Several times she nearly pulled over to read it right there on the side of the road, but something held her back. This moment needed the right space, the right time. By the time Lily unlocked the door to her small apartment, night had fully settled. Her cat, Pepper, greeted her with an annoyed meow for being left alone all day. After feeding him and changing into comfortable clothes, Lily made herself a cup of tea and settled onto her living room couch, the envelope finally in her hands. Her name written in her mother's handwriting stared back at her. How long ago had her mother written this? What? Secrets were waiting inside. Lily took a deep breath and carefully opened the seal, trying not to tear the aged paper. Inside was a letter, several pages long, and what looked like medical documents folded behind it. With trembling hands, Lily unfolded the letter and began to read. "My dearest Lily, if you're reading this, then I'm no longer with you, and you've finally met Vivian. I imagine you have many questions. Why didn't I tell you about your Uncle Thomas? Why was I so protective? Why did I keep so many secrets? I hope to answer them all here, but first, I want you to know that everything I did, every rule I made, every time I said no when you wanted me to say yes, it all came from love. Perhaps misguided at times, but love nonetheless." Lily paused, taking a sip of tea to steady herself. She could almost hear her mother's voice reading these words. "When my brother Thomas died at 16, something in our family broke forever. My parents never recovered, and I promised myself that if I ever had children, I would protect them from that kind of pain. When you were born, that promise became my life's mission. The doctors told us Thomas died from a genetic heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It can run in families, and there was a chance you might have inherited it. We had you tested as a baby. The results are included with this letter. You were clear, Lily. You didn't inherit the condition." Lily let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She quickly flipped through the medical documents, seeing her own name on test results from 25 years ago. Relief washed over her. So why did I continue to be so protective? Why did I never tell you? I wish I had a simple answer. At first you were too young to understand. Then, as you grew older, I worried that knowing about Thomas would make you live in fear despite your clean test results. And finally, I think I had spent so many years in protective mode that I didn't know how to stop. My fear became a habit I couldn't break. By the time you were a teenager, I realized my mistakes. You resented my rules, and I couldn't explain them without revealing everything. We grew apart, exactly what I never wanted. But by then, it seemed too late to change course. Tears welled in Lily's eyes. She remembered the arguments, the door slamming, the cold silences that sometimes lasted for days. All because her mother couldn't find the words to explain her fear. There's something else you should know, something that might be harder to believe. Since childhood, I've sometimes had dreams that came true. Nothing dramatic like lottery numbers or world events, just small glimpses of future moments in my life or the lives of those close to me. My grandmother had the same gift, though we rarely spoke of it outside the family. 3 weeks before my heart attack, I had the most vivid dream of my life. I saw you, grown up, sitting at my grave. You were reading from my poetry book and talking to me about your life. You mentioned working at a bookstore, breaking up with someone named Ray, and taking online classes in literature. You said you might want to be a writer someday. Lily nearly dropped the letter. Her conversation at the grave, she had mentioned all those things. A chill ran down her spine. How could her mother have known? I knew then that my time was short, but also that you would be okay. In my dream, you were sad but strong. You had found your own path. And most importantly, I saw that one day you would come to understand why I was the way I was. After that dream, I contacted Vivian. We hadn't spoken in years, but she was the only person I trusted with this task. I wrote this letter, gathered these documents, and gave her instructions. She thought I was being dramatic, but she promised to keep everything safe until the day you came to visit my grave alone. There's one more thing I saw in my dream, Lily. You will find a small cottage by the sea. The address and key are with Vivian. It's my gift to you. A place I purchased years ago as a sanctuary, somewhere you could go to think and write. In my dream, you were happy there. The next page contained what looked like coordinates and directions, along with a small hand-drawn map. I know all of this must seem strange, perhaps even unbelievable. You might wonder if Vivian made it all up, if the timing was just coincidence. I don't have any way to prove the truth to you except for one thing. In my dream, when you visited my grave, you brought a small heart-shaped stone from our beach trip and left it beside my headstone. If you did this, then you'll know that what I'm telling you is real. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. The stone. She had left it at the grave earlier that day, a small memory from their vacation 15 years ago. Nobody else could have known about that. I have one last request, my darling girl. Please live without fear. Your heart is strong, both physically and in spirit. Don't make my mistake of letting caution override joy. Take chances, make messes, fall in love, write stories, see the world. All the things I was too afraid to let you do and too afraid to do myself. I love you more than words can say. And somehow, I believe I'll know when you read this letter. Look for me in the small moments. A sudden breeze, a familiar song, on the radio, a dream that feels too real to be just a dream. I'll find ways to reach you. All my love, Mom. Lily set the letter down, her mind spinning. Could it really be true? Had her mother somehow seen the future? The evidence was right there. Details of their conversation at the grave that no one else could have known. The heart-shaped stone she'd kept hidden in her drawer for years. She picked up her phone and searched for the coordinates from the letter. They pointed to a coastal area about 2 hours north, a small town called Harbor Point that Lily had never visited. Property records would confirm if her mother really owned a cottage there, but somehow Lily already knew it would be true. As she sat absorbing everything, Pepper jumped into her lap, purring loudly. Lily stroked his fur absent-mindedly, her thoughts still with her mother's letter. She knew Pepper, she whispered. Somehow she knew exactly what would happen. Outside, rain had started to fall gently against the windows. Lily got up and went, to look out at the night sky, watching raindrops trace patterns on the glass. Was her mother watching her somehow? The idea both comforted and unsettled her. Lily made a sudden decision. She wouldn't wait to visit the mysterious cottage. She would go tomorrow, call in sick to work if necessary. This couldn't wait. She spent the next hour packing a small bag, enough clothes for a few days, toiletries, her laptop, and of course, her mother's poetry book and letter. As she moved around the apartment, she felt a strange energy, as if the air itself was charged with possibility. Just before midnight, as Lily was about to go to bed, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Aunt Beth. "Lily, I hope I'm not calling too late," her aunt said when Lily answered. "No, I'm still up. Is everything okay?" There was a pause on the other end. "I had the strangest feeling I needed to call you tonight. Like someone was nudging me to check on you. Did something happen today?" Lily sat down slowly on the edge of her bed. "Actually, yes, I visited Mom's grave." "Oh." Another pause. "It's been a long time, that's good, Lily." "Aunt Beth," Lily said carefully, "did Mom ever mention someone named Vivian to you? An old friend?" The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. "Where did you hear that name?" "I met her today at the cemetery. She gave me a letter from Mom." "That's impossible," Aunt Beth said, her voice suddenly sharp. "Vivian Reeves died 3 years ago. I went to her funeral myself." Lily felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath her feet. "That can't be right. I just talked to her today. She was right there at Mom's grave." "Lily, listen to me," Aunt Beth said slowly. "Vivian was your mother's best friend when they were young. They reconnected a few months before your mother died. But Vivian passed away from cancer 3 years ago. I'm absolutely certain." Lily's mind raced. The woman at the cemetery had seemed so real, so solid. They'd spoken. She'd handed Lily the envelope. How could she have been— "I need to go," Lily said suddenly. "I'll call you tomorrow." She ended the call and sat frozen on her bed. If Vivian was dead, who had she met today? A relative, perhaps? Someone who looked like her, or had something truly impossible happened? Lily pulled out the letter again, reading through her mother's words about dreams coming true, about finding ways to reach across the divide. The evidence was right there in black and white. Her mother had known exactly what Lily would say at her grave 5 years after her death. Suddenly, Lily couldn't wait until morning. She grabbed her packed bag, scooped a protesting Pepper into his carrier, and headed for her car. The mysterious cottage by the sea couldn't wait. Whatever answers were waiting for her there, Lily needed them now. The night drive along the coastal highway was both beautiful and eerie. A nearly full moon hung over the ocean, casting a silver path across the dark water. Lily had the windows cracked open, letting in the salt-tinged air as she followed the directions from her mother's letter. Pepper had settled down in his carrier after some initial complaints. Now he watched the passing landscape with curious eyes, occasionally making small chirping sounds when they passed something interesting. Lily's mind raced with questions. If Vivian had died 3 years ago, who was the woman at the cemetery? A look-alike? A relative? Or something impossible to explain? The letter in her mother's handwriting was real enough. She'd recognize those neat, precise letters anywhere. And the things her mother had written about, the details of their graveside conversation, the heart-shaped stone, those couldn't be coincidence. Road signs indicated she was approaching Harbor Point. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the small coastal town was dark except for streetlights and the occasional lit window. According to the hand-drawn map, she needed to take the next right onto a narrow road that wound up along the cliffs. The road was exactly where the map showed it would be. Lily turned carefully, her headlights cutting through the darkness as the pavement climbed upward. Trees lined both sides, their branches creating strange moving shadows. After about 2 miles, the trees opened up and Lily gasped. The moon illuminated a breathtaking view of the coastline below, waves crashing against rocks, the vast ocean stretching to the horizon. Just ahead, nestled on a small plateau overlooking the sea, was a cottage. Lily slowed the car, her heart pounding. This had to be it. The cottage was small but charming, with weathered gray shingles and white trim around the windows. A covered porch wrapped around the front, facing the ocean. It looked like something from a postcard. The perfect writer's retreat. She parked in the small gravel area beside the cottage and turned off the engine. For a moment, she just sat there, gathering courage. This place had been waiting for her, perhaps for years. What would she find inside? Taking a deep breath, Lily grabbed her bag and Pepper's carrier and approached the front door. According to the letter, there should be a key hidden under a blue flower pot. She looked around and spotted it, a ceramic pot with painted blue forget-me-nots, tucked against the wall. When she lifted it, a small brass key winked in the moonlight. Her hand trembled slightly as she unlocked the door. It swung open with a soft creak, revealing darkness beyond. Lily fumbled for a light switch and found one just inside. Warm light flooded the space and she stepped in, setting Pepper's carrier down to let him out. The cottage was small but perfect. A cozy living room with a stone fireplace faced the entry, with large windows looking out to the ocean. A kitchen area occupied one corner, and Lily could see two doors that likely led to a bedroom and bathroom. But what caught her eye immediately were the bookshelves. They lined almost every wall, filled with books of all kinds, and scattered throughout the space were framed photographs, dozens of them. Lily moved closer to look at the nearest one and felt her breath catch. It was her, at her college graduation, the one she'd left after 2 years. Except in this photo, she was wearing a cap and gown, proudly holding a diploma. But that had never happened. She'd dropped out, worked at the bookstore instead. Yet here was photographic evidence of a life she hadn't lived. Confused, Lily moved to another photo. This one showed her with a man she'd never met, both of them laughing on a beach. Another displayed her standing in front of a classroom of students. Yet another showed her holding what appeared to be a published book, her name clearly visible on the cover. "What is this?" she whispered, moving from photo to photo. They showed a life that could have been hers, a parallel path she might have taken if she'd made different choices. Pepper rubbed against her legs, bringing her back to reality. The cat seemed completely at ease in this strange place, as if he'd been here before. Lily watched as he jumped onto a window seat and curled up comfortably. On a small desk by the largest window, Lily noticed a leather-bound journal. She approached it cautiously, almost afraid of what she might find. Opening it revealed her mother's handwriting again. The first entry was dated just 2 weeks before her death. "I've bought the cottage at last. It took years of saving, but it's finally mine. Or rather, it will be Lily's when the time comes. I've seen her here in my dreams, writing by the window, finding her voice at last. This will be her sanctuary when she's ready to accept it." The visions are coming more frequently now. Last night, I saw her visiting my grave, exactly as she will be in 5 years' time. I saw her meeting Vivian, though I don't understand how that's possible. I've seen glimpses of other possibilities too, lives Lily might have lived if she'd made different choices. I've framed some of these moments to show her that it's never too late to change course. Lily turned the page, her fingers shaking slightly. "The doctors say my heart is failing. The same condition that took Thomas is coming for me now. I've made peace with it. But I worry about Lily. We've grown so distant, and there's so much I haven't told her. Vivian says I should call Lily, explain everything while I still can. But something tells me she won't be ready to hear it. Some truths can only be understood when the time is right. And I've seen that time. It's 5 years from now, when she finally comes back to my grave." Lily sat down hard on the desk chair, the journal clutched in her hands. 5 years ago, her mother had somehow known exactly when Lily would visit her grave, had known what she would say, what she would bring, had known about this moment right now with Lily sitting in this cottage reading these words. She flipped through more pages, finding detailed descriptions of her life over the past 5 years. Her promotion at the bookstore, her breakup with Ray, her small balcony garden, her online writing classes. Things her mother couldn't possibly have known through ordinary means. The final entry was dated the day before her mother died. "My time is nearly up. I had the strangest dream last night. I saw Lily meeting Vivian at my grave, but I also saw Vivian's funeral. I don't understand how both can be true. There's something happening that goes beyond my understanding. Some pattern in the universe I can only glimpse. I've left everything ready. The letter with Vivian, the cottage prepared, my journal here for Lily to find, and one last gift, hidden, where only she will think to look. My darling girl, if you're reading this now, know that I've always been able to see the remarkable woman you would become. Not just one version of you, but many possible versions, all wonderful in their own ways. The choices are yours to make now. Trust yourself. And remember that love doesn't end when a life does. I'll find ways to let you know I'm still watching, over you. The gift is where we hid treasures when you were small. You'll remember. Lily closed the journal, tears streaming down her face. Where had they hidden treasures when she was a child? Her mind raced back through memories, and suddenly she knew. Rising from the desk, she went to the stone fireplace. As a little girl, she and her mother had played a game where they hid small treasures, pretty rocks, feathers, handmade bracelets, in a special hiding spot. If this cottage truly reflected her mother's memories, then maybe... Lily knelt and ran her fingers along the right side of the fireplace. There, a small loose stone that could be removed. She carefully worked it free, revealing a small hollow space behind. Inside was a velvet pouch. With trembling hands, Lily opened it and tipped the contents into her palm. A beautiful pendant on a silver chain slid out. A delicate tree of life design with tiny gemstones representing fruits or flowers among the branches. Lily recognized it immediately. It had belonged to her grandmother, then her mother. She'd always assumed it was buried with her mother as she'd worn it every day. Along with the necklace was a small note, folded tightly. Lily opened it to find just a few lines. The pendant shows the branching paths of life, choices made, roads taken and not taken. When you wear it, remember that it's never too late to choose a new path. I love you across all possible lives. Look in the bedroom. There's one more thing you need to see. Lily slipped the necklace over her head, feeling its familiar weight against her chest. Then she stood and moved toward one of the doors, assuming it led to the bedroom. She was right. The bedroom was small, but lovely, with a comfortable-looking bed covered in a handmade quilt, more bookshelves, and another large window facing the ocean. But what immediately caught her attention was the painting hanging on the wall opposite the bed. It showed a cemetery scene, her mother's grave with two figures standing beside it. One was clearly Lily herself. The other was the silver-haired woman she'd met that day, Vivian. In the painting, they were talking, exactly as they had been earlier that day. Sunlight filtered through tree branches above them, and wildflowers dotted the grass at their feet. Lily moved closer, her heart racing. At the bottom of the painting, nearly hidden by the frame, was a signature and date. Grace Chen, painted 3 weeks before her death. Her mother had painted this scene 5 years before it happened. Beside the bed was a small nightstand with a single drawer. Almost in a trance now, Lily opened it. Inside was a business card for an art gallery in Harbor Point, with a note paperclipped to it. "They're expecting you tomorrow. Ask for Jenny." Lily sat on the edge of the bed trying to process everything. Her mother had somehow seen the future, had prepared this place as both a gift and a message to her. The photos showed lives Lily might have lived. The journal detailed things no one could have known. And the painting proved that her mother had seen Lily meeting Vivian at the grave years before it happened. But Vivian was dead. Yet Lily had spoken to her, touched her hand, received the letter from her. Outside, the first hints of dawn were lightening the sky. Lily moved to the window, watching as stars faded, and the dark ocean slowly became visible in the gray morning light. She felt exhausted but wide awake, her mind buzzing with questions that seemed impossible to answer. As the sun began to rise, casting golden light across the water, Lily made a decision. She would visit the art gallery when it opened, she would ask for Jenny, and she would find out what else her mother had left for her to discover. After a few hours of restless sleep, Lily woke to sunlight streaming through the cottage windows and the sound of waves crashing against the cliffs below. For a moment, She felt disoriented until the events of yesterday came rushing back. The visit to her mother's grave, the mysterious encounter with Vivian, the letter, and this cottage filled with impossible photos and paintings. Pepper had made himself completely at home, curled up at the foot of her bed as if he'd always belonged there. Lily reached out to scratch behind his ears, grounding herself in this small, normal moment before facing the strangeness of everything else. The business card from the nightstand drawer sat on the bedside table where she'd left it. Harbor Point Gallery was printed in elegant script, with an address in the heart of the small coastal town. Lily picked it up again, running her finger over the handwritten note. "They're expecting you tomorrow. Ask for Jenny." Tomorrow, which was now. Today. Lily checked her phone. It was just past 9 in the morning. She'd have time to shower, change, and grab some breakfast before heading to the gallery. The cottage's small bathroom was stocked with fresh towels and toiletries, as if her mother had prepared it just yesterday rather than 5 years ago. As Lily showered, she tried to make sense of everything she'd discovered. Her mother had somehow been able to see the future. Not just vague impressions, but specific details. She'd known exactly when Lily would visit her grave, exactly what she would say, exactly where she would go afterward. And then there was Vivian, a woman 3 years dead who had somehow appeared at the cemetery, solid and real enough to hand Lily a letter and speak with her. Was it a ghost, some kind of messenger, or something else entirely that Lily couldn't begin to understand? After getting dressed in fresh clothes from her overnight bag, Lily explored the kitchen. The refrigerator was empty, but the cupboards contained coffee, tea, and some basic, non-perishable foods. She made herself a cup of coffee and found a granola bar to quiet her growling stomach as she sipped her coffee by the window. Watching the ocean sparkle in the morning sun, Lily noticed something she'd missed in the darkness last night. A path wound down from the cottage toward a small, secluded cove below. It looked like the perfect private beach, sheltered by rock formations on either side. That would have to wait for another time. Today she needed answers, and the gallery seemed to be where her mother wanted her to find them. After feeding Pepper and making sure he had water, Lily took her mother's necklace in her hand, drawing comfort from its familiar weight. "I'll be back soon," she told the cat, who merely blinked at her before returning to his sunbeam on the windowsill. The drive into Harbor Point took less than 10 minutes. It was a charming seaside town with colorful storefronts and hanging flower baskets lining the main street. Tourists and locals mingled on the sidewalks, enjoying the beautiful summer morning. Lily found the gallery easily, a renovated Victorian building painted a soft blue with white trim. A sign in elegant script announced, "Harbor Point Gallery, Local Artists Showcase." Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door, setting off a small bell that announced her arrival. The gallery was bright and airy, with white walls displaying a variety of paintings and sculptures. A few early visitors wandered around, studying the artwork with quiet appreciation. Behind a small desk near the entrance sat a woman in her 60s, with short gray hair and glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Lily approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Jenny." The woman looked up with a warm smile. "You must be Lily," she said, standing and extending her hand. "I'm Jenny Stewart, the owner. We've been expecting you." Lily shook her hand, a chill running down her spine. "How did you know who I am?" Jenny's smile softened. "Grace told me you'd come today. She was very specific about the date." "Grace? My mother? But she died 5 years ago." "Yes," Jenny nodded. "About 2 months before she passed, she brought in several paintings and made arrangements with me. She paid for 5 years of storage and display fees, with instructions that certain pieces should be shown to you when you arrived." She gestured toward a hallway. "They're in our private collection room. Would you like to see them now?" Still, trying to process this information, Lily nodded mutely and followed Jenny down the hallway to a door marked Private Collection. The older woman unlocked it and ushered Lily inside, flipping on lights that illuminated a smaller, more intimate gallery space. "I'll give you some privacy," Jenny said. "Take all the time you need. I'll be at the front desk when you're done." As the door closed behind her, Lily found herself surrounded by her mother's artwork, at least 20 paintings arranged chronologically around the room. She'd always known her mother painted as a hobby, but she'd never seen this level of talent and vision in her work before. The first few paintings were scenes from Lily's childhood: a birthday party, a day at the beach, Lily reading under a tree in their backyard. But as she moved through the room, she realized these weren't just memories. The later paintings showed moments from Lily's life after her mother had died: her apartment, the bookstore where she worked, even her cat Pepper, whom she'd only adopted 3 years ago. And then came paintings of moments that hadn't happened yet, at least not in the life Lily had lived so far. There she was graduating from college with a literature degree. There she was typing at a desk in what looked like the cottage, pages of a manuscript scattered around her. There she was standing in this very gallery, looking at these paintings. Lily's heart pounded as she realized her mother had painted this exact moment years before it happened. The final painting in the room was larger than the others, displayed on an easel in the center. It showed Lily sitting on the small beach below the cottage, writing in a journal. Beside her was the silver-haired figure of Vivian, and standing just behind them both, watching with a loving smile, was Lily's mother. Beneath the painting was a small plaque with a title, "Conversations Across Time." On a table next to the easel sat a leather portfolio and an envelope with Lily's name. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope first. "My dearest Lily, if you're reading this, then everything I've seen has come to pass. You've visited my grave, you've met Vivian, though how that's possible I still don't understand. You found the cottage and now you're standing in front of my paintings. I need to explain something I've only come to understand in these final weeks of my life. The women in our family have always had a unique gift. My grandmother called it seeing through the veil. For her, it manifested as knowing when someone was about to die. For me, it came as dreams and visions of the future, particularly of you and your life. At first, I thought these were just ordinary dreams, but when they began coming true with perfect accuracy, I realized they were something more. In these last months, as my heart weakens, the visions have become stronger and clearer. I've seen so many possibilities for your life. Branches on a tree, paths in a forest, all leading to different futures. The paintings in this room show some of those possibilities. Some have already happened, some may never happen, but all are potential futures that exist for you. In the portfolio beside this letter, you'll find the deed to the cottage, made out in your name. It's my gift to you, a place where you can write, think, and find your true path. There's one more thing, something I've only recently understood. These visions don't just show the future, they can shape it. By painting what I've seen, by writing it down, by believing in it, I've somehow helped bring these futures into being. And I've chosen to focus on the brightest, happiest futures I could see for you. Which brings me to Vivian. In most of the futures I saw, you never met her. She was my dearest friend in childhood, and we reconnected in my final year. I entrusted her with my letter to you, never imagining she would pass away before you came to visit my grave. Yet in one very specific vision, I saw you meeting her there, just as you described in your call to Beth last night. Yes, I even saw that. I don't claim to understand how this is possible. Perhaps love and intention are stronger than the boundaries between life and death. Perhaps time isn't as linear as we believe, or perhaps there are forces at work in this world that we simply don't have the capacity to comprehend. What I do know is this: the love between a mother and daughter doesn't, and when one life does, it continues, finding new ways to express itself across time and space. I've seen you sitting on that beach below the cottage, writing your own stories. I've seen you finding your voice and sharing it with the world. I've seen you healing from old wounds and opening your heart to new possibilities. Go to the beach this afternoon. I can't explain how or why, but I know Vivian will be there waiting for you. And in some way that defies explanation, so will I. All my love across all possible futures. Lily carefully folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Then she opened the portfolio, confirming that it indeed contained the deed to the cottage along with insurance papers and tax records, all properly arranged for her to take ownership. As she stood there absorbing everything, the door opened quietly and Jenny appeared again. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked gently. Lily nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I think so. My mother, she was quite extraordinary, wasn't she?" Jenny smiled. More than most people ever realized. She saw things others couldn't see. She paused, studying Lily's face. "You have her eyes, you know. The same depth. I wouldn't be surprised if you've inherited more than just her cottage and her paintings." "What do you mean?" "The women in some families carry gifts through the generations," Jenny said simply. "Your mother told me she inherited hers from her grandmother." "Have you ever had dreams that came true? Moments of knowing something you shouldn't be able to know?" Lily thought about it. There had been times, knowing who was calling before the phone rang, dreaming about places she'd later visit, feeling her mother's presence at unexpected moments. Maybe, she admitted, but nothing like what she could do. "These things often grow stronger with time," Jenny said, "especially in places of power." She nodded toward the window in the direction of the cottage on the cliff. "That spot has always had a special energy. Your mother felt it the moment she saw it. It's why she bought it for you." Lily gathered the portfolio and her mother's letter. "I should go. There's somewhere I need to be this afternoon." Jenny nodded knowingly. "The beach below the cottage. Guess I thought you might be headed there." She smiled at Lily's surprised expression. "Your mother wasn't the only one in town with a gift." As Lily drove back to the cottage, her mind was full, but somehow clearer than it had been in years. The puzzle pieces were fitting together, creating a picture she never could have imagined. She parked and went inside just long enough to change into more casual clothes and check on Pepper, who seemed perfectly content exploring his new home. Then, with her mother's letter in her pocket and the pendant around her neck, she followed the winding path down to the small, secluded beach. The cove was even more beautiful up close, a perfect crescent of sand sheltered by rocky cliffs, with crystal clear water lapping gently at the shore. And there, sitting on a large piece of driftwood, was Vivian. She looked up as Lily approached, smiling that same warm smile from the cemetery. "I was wondering when you'd arrive," she said. "Grace always said you'd run a little late." Lily sat down beside her, no longer afraid or confused. "You're not really here, are you? At least not in the way most people would understand." Vivian's eyes twinkled. "Does it matter? I'm here enough to talk with you, to help you understand what your mother wanted you to know." "And what's that?" "That time isn't quite what we think it is. That love creates connections that don't break when our bodies do. That you have gifts you're only beginning to discover." Vivian gestured toward the ocean. "Look there." Lily followed her gaze. At first, she saw only waves and sunlight on water. But then, as if a veil was lifting, she saw a third figure sitting on her other side, her mother looking exactly as she remembered her, smiling with love and pride. "Mom?" Lily whispered, hardly daring to believe. Her mother didn't speak, but her presence was unmistakable. A warmth, a scent, a feeling of absolute love that wrapped around Lily like an embrace. "She can't stay long," Vivian said softly. "These moments are rare and precious, but she wanted you to know that she's watching over you, that she's proud of the woman you've become, and that she'll always find ways to reach you when you need her most." Tears streamed down Lily's face as she felt her mother's hand cover hers. Not quite solid, but undeniably real. In that touch was forgiveness for all the arguments, understanding for all the misunderstandings, and love that transcended all boundaries. "The cottage is yours now," Vivian continued. "A place where the veil is thin, where you can write your stories and perhaps discover your own gift for seeing beyond the ordinary world. Will I see you again?" Lily asked, looking from Vivian to the fading image of her mother. Vivian smiled. "When you need us, Look for us in the spaces between moments, in sudden breezes, in meaningful coincidences, in dreams that feel too real to be just dreams. We'll find ways to reach you. As the afternoon sun began its descent toward the horizon, Lily sat between two worlds, finally understanding what her mother had tried to tell her all along. Life wasn't just about the paths we choose, but about the connections we make. Connections that continue long after we think they're broken, and in that moment on a beach that existed both in physical reality and somewhere beyond it, Lily began to write her own story.